Harambe, and he used to call it Harambe for people to come together and pull together a rope. And there's a book written by somebody called Owino Mbudo about the Harambe spirit. So Kenyatta picked it. Mzee Kenyatta picked it in the struggle after he was released from detention, and he started executing the spirit of Harambe, that we pull together to push out the colonial yoke from our country. So that is when it started, early 60s. Thank you.
Senator Gloria.
Thank you, my youth representative. And I like that he has said it started by an individual, a gentleman, and then it was mainstreamed by a politician for political purposes. And that is my point exactly, that we can say that it is a spirit of giving, but bottom line, when the Nyayo was put in there, it was a spirit of, let us come together and let us follow this individual who is now running on something called Nyayo. And Mr. Speaker, the reason I was asking for the timelines is because I also want to ask my colleagues as we debate this bill, during that time, did we have devolved functions? Did we have structures where we can support our social systems? Did we even have things that we are now calling finance bills? Were our taxes as heavy as they are today, Mr. Speaker? Because the spirit of Harambe, you can justify it and clean it up and make it look like such a beautiful thing that we must all support. But in real essence, the spirit of Harambe in 2024 is a spirit of dependency. It is a spirit of saying we are agreeing that our broken systems in healthcare, our broken systems in social services, our broken systems in the education system, in all these things, including housing, is what we are promoting so that we can now all together and say Harambe again and go back to our pockets so that we can now give money to people. Why, Mr. Speaker? It was fancy during the time when I'm sure our youth representative was a teenager. It was probably encouraged because at that time we were living in communities of social welfare. People were taking care of each other. And it was something to look up to. But today in 2024, when each individual is being encouraged to take up an income generating activity so that they can pay taxes, why then would we promote a spirit of dependency, Mr. Speaker? And with that opening speech, I want to say that I support this bill because what this bill does is it forces us leaders to stop encouraging the spirit of dependency, Mr. Speaker. When I talk about the spirit of dependency, it's not just leaders who go to Harambees to give money for funerals, to give money for health reasons and all these things. Mr. Speaker, in my circles and in my social circles, every single opportunity, we are talking about weddings, we are talking about, oh, next weekend we are going to visit so-and-so in whoever's house, and the first thing they do, they open a pay bill or a till number. Or they say, oh, so-and-so is collecting this number. Why? We are actually encouraging a spirit of dependency in this country, and that is the reason why I feel that some of the structures that we have in place, which we should push and make sure that we have efficiency in those structures, we are so sidetracked with the fact that if someone in your family dies, it is like, okay, set up a WhatsApp group, collect money. Why? We have insurance companies, we have our social security fund, which we should question and bring bills to this house and say, this social security fund, why doesn't it cater for funerals? Or if it caters for funerals, why can't we make it so efficient that nobody should be able to say, we are collecting money for a funeral? Because the first question that Kenyans will ask you is, why are you collecting money for funerals? And yet funerals are catered for under this social security fund. So, Mr. Speaker, again I say, every single time you hear of this word Harambe, I challenge any member of this house, because I know I'm one of the youngest, and we even have younger ones, but we all remember that Harambe was Nyayo, follow an individual. And if you look at that time of that individual, we were 100% dependent on a centralized system that was governed by one man, and that was our former president. This being a house that supports devolution, we should be ashamed of ourselves to come to the floor of the house and say that, the spirit of Harambe, churches should be built, it should not be set aside, because we should be ashamed. We should support this bill because what we are trying to say is, as the upper house, the one that protects devolution, the one that ensures that we give monies to those devolved functions on the county level, we are pushing for accountability to the extent that the healthcare works, the housing schemes work, the education sector works, so that we do not have any reason to come here and defend any form of law legislation that actually calls for us to go back to when Senator Oburu was telling me, I think he has said 1960 something, we have no business looking back and to go back and emulate what our forefathers were doing when there was no devolution, there was no technology, there was no, we are advanced. So for me, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. And I can tell you, because some of us, as much as we are in politics, we probably don't fit in this political space. I have analyzed all the politicians in this house. And if there is one thing, Mr. Speaker, politicians are afraid of, every Thursday, like today, you can see the house, people are moving in, out, in, out. Mr. Speaker, they are looking for money because tomorrow they are doing funerals. Then they have to go and contribute. Because on Saturday, they are going to go to the ground because they have to go and give money to social groups. They are in and out of this house. They are distracted that they cannot even contribute to this bill because when it strikes Thursday, Mr. Speaker, politicians are stressed. They have to go back to the grassroots. They have to go back for Harambees. They know they have all these community groups that are waiting for them in the grassroots, and they are saying, Senator, umeleta ngapi? So, Mr. Speaker, in that essence, what are we really doing when we are saying our 2010 constitution, which pushed for devolution of services, what are we really saying when we are saying then, okay, we don't support this bill because we want us to continue contributing? Mr. Speaker, if not for nothing, as a legislator who has sat in this house for 2 years, I can tell you that we must continue to push for services to be delivered 100% efficiently by government so that we can stop the spirit of dependency, which is what we are hiding behind by saying Harambe is our forefathers, Harambe is this and that. No, it is a spirit of dependency that we need to put aside, and we need to really question ourselves as Africans. Mr. Speaker, I know there are those who will say that, Mr. Speaker, if you can protect me from Senator Mofire, I think he is also looking for money for this weekend's Harambe. If you can protect me. Mr. Speaker, I have to say that we have a whole...
Senator Mofire, what is your point of order? Your mic.
I think Speaker? Honorable Speaker, for the record, I think that one to be struck off the record, the answer. I'm not looking for any money. If there is anything that I'm looking for, I'm consulting so that I can contribute towards the bill.
Very well, Senator Gloria.
I apologize, Mofire, and withdraw. Mr. Speaker, I want to go to, this is the Memorandum of Objectives and the reasons, so that we can remind ourselves as to why this piece of legislation was here. That's page 700 and, no, what is that? 726, that's how it's paginated at the top. Memorandum of Objectives and Reasons. On paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, paragraph 4. It clearly states that the bill is also based on the need to reduce the culture of dependency that Harambees have imbued in the society, extending even essentially private affairs to larger public. If you read further down, it says, its passage will promote the use of devolved structures as entities for promoting structured social development by ensuring that the conduct of the public appeals are approved by assessing their links to the needs and priorities of the counties. Mr. Speaker, you know one thing we have in this country, and not only this country, I think a lot of African, maybe it is our culture, I don't know, someone must do a research. We like to glorify poverty, Mr. Speaker. You know, I can tell you, most people, their inboxes and their phones, it starts with, "Hi Mheshimiwa, I am a single mother. My background is I was raised in the slums, blah, blah, blah." Yes, there is a majority. But we glorify poverty to the extent that it's not fancy if you are making it in life. It's not fun, it's not a good thing if you are independent. So the fact that we have literally mainstreamed glorifying poverty, not poverty, but we've mainstreamed glorifying poverty. It's like there has to be a story of poverty in your life, and then we will look at you and say, okay, now you're a leader. The fact that we have glorified that poverty has actually further pushed that bad culture of dependency. And when you every single time talk to someone and say, but don't you think if this particular service was made efficient, but you know, some of us, we can't, they'll always find a reason. I'll give you an example. Recently, I went to Mama Lucy Hospital, and on a charitable initiative. And when I say charitable, again, Harambees, nyayo, on a charitable initiative. And, you know, and I also wanted to understand what was happening in Mama Lucy because we've had a lot of complaints. So, you know, I went around, looked at the wards. I could see definitely we have an issue with infrastructure. And I had baby blankets to give out to the newborns. And at least on 3 separate occasions when I was engaging the mothers to the beneficiaries of those blankets. And one of them said, and you have not brought for us, you've brought blankets and you've brought sanitary pads, but me, I have not gotten diapers. And you know, I had to say, okay, diapers were taken to the wing where we had about 17 abandoned babies and blah, blah, blah. And on another occasion, you give this and that, and they say, but you have not brought ABCD. And on several occasions, someone said, yeah, but you could have given us also 2,500, at least 3,000. Give us something. And I asked, do you have a pending bill? Do you have something, you know, is it that you have to pay? Isn't Linda Mama working? Say, oh, no, that service is free. But since you're giving, and I mean, you've come with a blanket and you've come with this, and you might as well also give money. And so that you understand how that culture is born. It's like, it's not like, thank you so much for this. It's like, give me more and give me more. And I want to say, this bill is not about politicians who are misbehaving. This bill is about every single Kenyan who is misbehaving. Because I've told you, Mr. Speaker, politicians misbehave by ensuring that they are the ones who are contributing the most to show off. But not only do they misbehave on that nature, but you know, it pushes on corrupt activities so that they can be able to fuel all their weekend Harambees. But we've seen individuals in households misbehaving. I've told you, we are going to visit a neighbor, they open a WhatsApp group collect. People have killed their parents who are still alive just so they can run Harambees. People have actually run Harambees stating that their children are sick, yet their children are not sick, just so they can run Harambees and benefit. It's a whole industry, Mr. Speaker. And because of that bad behavior and bad culture of Kenyans, from leadership to the bottom, Mr. Speaker, I want to fully support this bill because it's time that we tell each other the truth. And the truth is, as I conclude, Harambees, nyayo, the spirit of dependency. That is where this came from. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Agnes Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to first of all start by saying that I don't support this bill. And the reasons why I don't support it, or I will not even support it, is because we, from our forefathers, this nation was built through Harambee. And Mr. Speaker, there are 3 very important Harambees that people do or people conduct in this country. And one is fundraising for school fees. Even now, after the CDF is in place, they cannot provide school fees or bursaries for each and every child, especially those who are coming from very poor background, Mr. Speaker. And that is an Harambee that I will always go and give, and that is why I have to say no to this bill, unless the government can make the education free from ECD to university. Then I can say yes to such a bill. But as long as school fees is being paid, students are already complaining about the new system